You can paint all the flowers you want, put yourself in a quiet small town, or take your wife on a beautiful beachside vacation. But the blood in your hands doesn't just wash off.
Exactly, because sooner or later a Yakuza enforcer walks through the door, or a Philadelphia mobster sits down at your counter, and that peaceful life you built, it explodes in less than a second.
Today, we are deconstructing the inescapable trap of a brutal past. Is Takeshi Kitano's poetic tragic masterpiece Hana-bi or Fireworks, or in Spanish, Flores de Fuego?
Versus David Cronenberg's visceral psychological throat ripper, A History of Violence. Two legendary authors, two hidden identities, one ultimate survivor.
This is CinemaJam
CinemaJam
Versus.
Versus.
Okay, Johnny, this one's got your number on it. Let's jam.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of CinemaJam Versus. This is a podcast where two friends get on a weekly basis just to talk about movies, analyze them, have a good time, and share our analysis, our comments, our views on these movies with everyone, especially with you, our followers and subscribers. As usual, I'm Pablo Vélez from Montreal, Canada, and joining me,
I am Sebastian Gomez.
awesome. Hi, Sebas, and
Happy birthday, Pablo.
thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I mean, what better way to celebrate, a birthday than with another episode of CinemaJam Versus.
And two of the most violent movies, mundane violent movies ever produced.
Exactly. Just before we talk about the movies, I will be putting up to our usual round of 6 rounds of fights. I just want to remind everyone that you can follow us and join us, subscribe to our main YouTube channel where you can find both this CinemaJam Versus version of our podcast that is done in English, usually during the middle of the week on Wednesdays, and also you can find our content we have a new YouTube channel, right, for our Spanish content, Sebas?
Yes, actually, we have to, due to some complications, we had to split the Cinema Jam in Espanol. That's our Friday episode. And the English episode is going to be in this YouTube channel.
Okay.
The regular one, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So you can find both channels on YouTube. You can also follow our main page on Facebook, also on Instagram, where we post all of our shorts. And we also got a Patreon site where you can subscribe, become a follower, and also contribute to this project. Basically, as Sebastian and I, what we're trying to do is build a community of people who like to watch and talk about movies. So we're looking forward to your feedback, to you guys following, subscribing, and liking us, so we can also get your comments or your suggestions and continue evolving our podcast.
Yeah, your support means a lot. And even if you cannot support us economically in Patreon, you can also leave your comments and your reviews in Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform.
Perfect. Without any further ado, we're going to start our CinemaJam Versus episode, where, as we were saying before, we're going to be talking about two of the most, I like the way you put it, Silas, the most mundane, violent movies you can find out there. We're going to be talking about two movies that are actually very similar, but with very special key differences. Silas, I'm going to have to ask you, why did you choose to put A History of Violence from David Cronenberg against Fireworks or Hana-bi from Takeshi Kitano?
To be honest, there is something in these two movies that has always fascinated me, and these are actually two of my favorite movies of all time. And Hana-bi, I saw it in the Bogota Film Festival when I was living there in 1999. And so 2 years after it was premiered worldwide and won the Venice the Venice Award
Yeah, the Venice
as top film.
Festival. Yep.
History of Violence. It was like a surprising revelation from Cronenberg because we're used of seeing his movies that are so horror oriented and seeing a movie about a guy, basically an owner of a diner in a small town. And the beginning of the movie is one of the most extreme things that you can see, that you can ever see from him. So yeah, it was just something that this movie just fascinated me. Like, they are so mundane. Everything that is happening at the beginning is so mundane, but when you least expect it, is there like an eye is blowing up or someone shoots someone in the head? It's just fascinating. Okay, so these are two masters at work, and Takeshi Kitano is someone that you and I are familiar with him because he's an actor. I mean, he was a comedian in Japan way before he started directing. And you and I are familiar with him because he was the teacher in Battle Royale, the first movie. I don't know, it's just fascinating. And David Cronenberg, coming from Existence and these very sci-fi type of horror movies to a movie about a gangster in Philadelphia, it was just incredible to watch. So if you want to, yeah, we can jump in. And
I just want to say that you chose, I think so far, two of the best versus examples, is to put in a competition. I'm really excited about this episode. So let's just go into round one. Well, let's start with the first round, which is all about the story and script. And the first question I have for you is about, well, actually, it's the following. Both the screenplays deal with men that are desperate to maintain a domestic facade while they are surrounded basically by this world of crime. In Hana-bi's, we get this non-linear, fragmented storyline reflecting the main character, Nishi's fractured mental state. You have that, which is, kind of difficult to follow with the very tight, linear, classical, very commercial, but extremely well done thriller structure of A History of Violence. Which narrative, Sebas, creates the more compelling storytelling or payoff between the two movies?
This is so hard. When I was thinking about it before, I thought I was going to say A History of Violence because it's the easier one to follow. From beginning to end, it follows a straight line. But the way we are learning about Yanichi, Takeshi Kitano character in Fireworks, is so fascinating because we see a little bit of the future, a little bit of the past, basically three timelines, and they interconnect so well. It's super hard for me to pick. I don't know how. Oh my God, man, I don't know. Both of them are pretty well. I love the structure in A History of Violence because it's very simple. Let's tell it. Basically, we start with a pair of goons that coming into a town where we learn that there is this family guy that has been living there for a long time. After we meet him with his family, we see that these two violent guys, these are like the guys from Dusk to Dawn, like two creeps that are shooting people left and right everywhere. We first meet them in the first scene, actually, when they shot a 3-year-old girl. And they come into the diner, and when it's closing, that's Viggo Mortensen character, and they try to kill basically his waiters, and he takes over and kills them. And then some mobsters from Philadelphia coming into the town, and because they recognize him from the news, and we find out that he has another history of violence in the name of Joy Cusack, a name I love. I love that name. And we find out that he has a brother, Philadelphia Monster, and basically there is a lot of violence happening around that. Hana-bi is weird because there is Takeshi Kitano basically like remembering things from the past, and it's interconnected with a very visual style that we're going to talk about a little bit about later. You know what? Let's give it to a history of violence. I think structurally it's easier to follow. Sometimes you get confusing in Hana-bi about if you're seeing the past or the future. I don't know, but I love the Yakuza gangsters and all that is happening around him, and the bank robbery and all that.
You know what, Sebas? I mean, David Cronenberg is a master, and this movie, I mean, it is amazing. I never seen it. It was in my list. I never got the motivation to actually watch it, so I did, and I was very impressed. But I was even more impressed with Hana-bi. I didn't really like it. It came to me after I finished watching the movie. It got me thinking. I started reading about it, and then I connected like so many dots.
Yeah.
And then I realized better that it's an amazingly creative way of telling a story. So, because as you were saying, we follow this detective who, got in the middle of a situation where a partner was left immobilized, like he lost the mobility in his legs, and now he's in a depressed state, and some of his colleagues
and
were
when they were
killed.
following the guy that shot his partner,
Exactly.
another got killed and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
Very
like
traumatic event. Yeah.
like a very traumatic series of events, and then you get this guy who's trying to maintain this like normalcy with his wife, who's also, she's dying basically of terminal cancer.
Yeah,
And
basically.
I thought that it was like so impressive, like all the different stories, however they were like intertwining. It's not an easy movie to watch. It's complex, and actually I want to see it again now that I read about it and I connected the dots. Just because of that, because of how bold and creative it was, I give the point to Hana-bi.
Okay, let's give it to Hana-bi. For me, it's super hard. I'm not going to deny. I love Hana-bi. When I watched it in that theater in Bogota, I was like blown. My mind was blown, and since then I started watching the other movies from Takeshi Kitano, and nothing is like this one. All of them are more banal, I guess, more yakuzas and samurais and things like that. I still like them, but yeah, it's nothing like this one. So, but yeah, let's get to Hana-bi. I think it's worth it.
Okay.
It is. I love this movie so much.
Let's do it, and then let's move on to the next round.
Okay, round 2.
Round 2.
This round, as you put it in our script, Sebas, is about the monster within. Because we're talking about two characters, Takeshi Kitano's Nishi and Viggo Mortensen's Tom Stahl, also known as Joey Cusack, who are both, who both have monsters within. So, with the Takeshi Kitano's Nishi, we get this stoic, stone-faced, very quiet, person who's
very quiet,
who's masking his grief with this explosive moments of random violence. And then you got Viggo Mortensen, who is one of the most amazing actors out there, and I love him. He's like one of my favorite actors, to be honest, who does these great transitions between this Midwestern diner owner and then this efficient mobster killer, Joey Cusack. This is a tough one. I mean, this is going to be hard versus now. Who do you think did a better performance conveying this everyday Joe or person becoming this monster as they're trying to protect their loved ones?
It's going to be very close, but I have to give it to Tom Stahl, Viggo Mortensen. There are some very interesting acting choices from Takeshi Kitano. He has like a tick when he's in the future, and the way he interacts with his wife is fascinating to watch because that's the only time he looks like a human person. The rest of the time he's a monster completely. But seeing Viggo Mortensen transforming into that person, and when he tells Ed Harris I Should Have Killed You in Philly. It was beautiful. It reminded me actually to the Leon from the A Triangle of Sadness, like very calm, but when he needed to project that he is a killer, he was so effective. And then after that, literally a minute after that, had to interact with his son. It was great. I think this one Viggo deserves the award.
I mean, you can tell who's the better actor. Although the twitch in the eye from Takeshi Kitano, it blew my mind every single time I saw him doing that. You could feel basically like
It
how
was
much
like
anger he was keeping
Yes.
inside. I mean, it was very impressive. But then, you put it very well, Sebas. Like Viggo Mortensen had like so many colors and so amazing transitions that he deserves the point.
Yeah, and we have to call Maria Bello as well as Eddie
Oh yeah,
Stoll.
she's great. She's amazing.
She does an amazing performance. I mean, the wife in Hana-bi as well, Kayoko Kishimoto, is pretty good, but it's much more tame. But the way she laughs at Takeshi Kitano, they have a lot of chemistry together. But Maria Bello has like an evolution as a character, especially with his husband, then the anger, or well, the doubt, then the anger, then the resolution at the end. It was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, point given to Viggo Mortensen.
Round 3.
This is about visuals and direction. So we're comparing Kitano's poetic stillness. Sometimes it feels really slow, to be very honest, with this, perfect clinical precision, as you put it in the question here, Sebas, that David Cronenberg executed in A History of Violence. So if we, if we compare like the two directing styles, Kitano's editing, juxtaposition with the artwork and the long frames just to capture, the melancholy and the sadness of the characters, against how Cronenberg used that very clean cinematic space for, jumping between moments of dialogues and then the bone chattering moments of action. Who do you think, who director was more efficient or more effective in elevating the movie because of their directing style into something beyond just a standard crime thriller?
That's
I have my favorite. I have my vote.
My vote goes to Hana-bi, to Takeshi Kitano.
Yes.
It's confusing, as you say at the beginning, or when we were talking a little bit before. It's a little bit confusing because you don't understand why you're seeing those pictures, and very interesting pictures. I think they are actually quite a good work of art, personally. But it jumped within that, the fireworks, that explosion, the symbolism of explosions, the way that Takeshi or Nishi explodes at times is like the perfect metaphor, or the perfect example of what the story is about. I think he deserves it. That's your pick as well?
And that's my pick as well. And I mean, Cronenberg did a really good job. This is an amazing movie. It's extremely like fun, and I mean, maybe fun is not the right word, but it's so engaging. But I've seen better movies where Cronenberg's style shines, the most, or has like a bigger, footprint in what comes out. Things like The Fly that we saw before, Sebas, or The Broad, or like stuff like that, or Dead Ringers. Like all of those movies, even like Videodrome, they are like pure 100% Cronenberg. And the more weird, organic stuff comes up, the more he shines. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but there were like a couple of scenes where you got to see the gore in History of Violence when he blew up the face of one of the guys at the diner. That was Cronenberg.
That was yeah.
That was a moment of Cronenberg. The other moments was Cronenberg doing something that wasn't his. So maybe he didn't transmit what he usually does when he has this, moments of organic, bloody, scenes. Kitano did something really beautiful. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, especially because Kitano had already done, I think, Sonatin, and that's movies with a lot of blood. His samurai movies are so bloody, Pablo. You wouldn't believe it.
I need to
The
watch
first time you see one of his samurai movies, like at Satoichi, or you're gonna believe it. And his trilogy of Outrage, where he's a mafia guy that basically retired, is amazing. I love that trilogy. I actually I think I watched the last one a few months ago. So that's also a reason I had the Hana-bi in my mind. So yeah, because Cronenberg, it doesn't look like a Cronenberg movie. That's not a bad thing, that he was trying something different, but it doesn't feel like a Cronenberg movie. I agree with you. Yeah.
I felt so. I don't know. Have you seen Spider, also from Cronenberg, around the same time?
No, that's his previous movie. I don't remember seeing that one.
I didn't like it at all.
Oh.
And I mean, I know some people like praise like the whole psychological thing that was going on in the mind of, I think it was Ralph Fiennes, but I don't know. It didn't engage me because it wasn't Cronenberg doing Cronenberg. It was Cronenberg doing like some sort of like psycho thriller movie. And then later he did a Dangerous Method, the one about Freud. And
yeah,
I watched it too, and I thought it was really boring. My bad. I mean, I know some people really like it, but it's not Cronenberg. That's not what he does. That's not what anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because he did A History of Violence and then he did Eastern Promises. And some people like Eastern Promises better, and I don't like that one. Although it has a great performance from Naomi Watts. And Viggo Mortensen also does a great performance there. For me, History of Violence, it was peak out of the
non-Cronenberg
Cronenberg, yeah.
Not
Out
Cronenberg.
of Cronenberg, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go to round 4 then. Here we go.
Round 4.
Okay, this is about the soundtrack and the overall vibe of both movies. So we've got two very different sound tracks. Joe Hisaishi does the Hana-bi, deeply emotional, romantic, tragic soundtrack that follows the main character, throughout the film. Howard Shore does the score for A History of Violence, which is more like this. It starts off as as you put it here, a pastoral, kind of like Americana type of, soundtrack that becomes more dreadful as the movie evolves. So which soundtrack, the one from Hisaishi for Hana-bi or Howard Shore's soundtrack for A History of Violence, which one did a better job in giving that identity to the movie?
I don't remember the music from A History of Violence.
Me neither.
But the music from Hana-bi...
I was reading the question. As I was reading the question, I was like thinking, do I remember anything about it?
Pastoral music? Yeah, I also had like the same, like pastoral music. I guess so, yeah, it was like...
You wrote that.
A little flutes and things like that. Very soft, symphonic music. Hana-bi is also symphonic music, but it has a lot of ups and downs, and sometimes it sounds like a carnival, sometimes sounds like a horror movies. It changes a lot, so I do remember more about that one. And it has a lot of silent times where people are just looking at the ocean, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in the wheelchair is sitting down there for 2 minutes, seeing the waves. And the music, you feel the music. It's the only thing that you're listening. Sometimes you don't even hear the sounds of the waves.
Yeah.
In some cases, sometimes just not. So I do believe that it was more effective, the Hana-bi one.
At least it's more memorable. I remember it. I was very thrown off by it sometimes watching the movie. I didn't know what to think.
Yes.
But
that happened to me as well, yeah.
Yeah, but it got stuck with me. Like, I know that I heard something like interesting or special, like non-ordinary with Hana-bi.
Mm,
So the point goes to Hana-bi.
in this case, yeah.
Okay, now we're going to be talking about memorable moments. So these are, since we're talking about two movies that are all about violence, these are all the flashpoints back to brutality. And both movies have this sudden, shockingly fast bursts of raw violence. How does the infamous unexpected chopstick sequence that, pulls someone's eye in Hana-bi, how does that compete against the, jaw-dropping diner self-defense scene, or, the brutal stairs sequence, the rough, intercourse sequence in A History of Violence? Which film
No.
does it better?
I think I have to give it to A History of Violence. There are some memorable scenes in there that I always remember when he's in the end talking to Ed Harris' character, and when he meets his brother, a great performance with William Hurt. Just William Hurt in this movie is memorable. Him as a character is a memorable character. And the scene with Maria Bello, not only a couple of scenes with Maria Bello are actually very well done. The first one where it shows like that romantic love, and then the second one when it shows that passion, like violent passion. They are very impressive scenes. I will give it to A History of Violence. Which one do you think? Which one do you like better?
I mean, if it's from a perspective of this flashpoints to brutality, I think A History of Violence did a better job in that. The sequences where the Kitano's character, Nishi, attacks the mobsters, they are also like unexpected and really well done, like really well choreographed. But the ones, actually, those are the sequences that David Cronenberg did the best, because that's when you get like some blood and gore, and like in the diner sequence you get to see like someone's like face almost like torn away. Like you can feel that there was something raw about it that connected with his style of directing, so it came out better. I agree. Let's give that point to definitely to A History of Violence.
And the interesting thing I do want to mention the Hana-bi after when so basically the first scene of real violence that happens is that one with the chopsticks, the one you mentioned in the question. After that, you're looking for the next scene, right?
And it takes a while. Like so many things happen in between. There's a bank robbery, a taxi made into a police car, going on the road trip. I was really waiting for that until you get the scene in the beach and the lake. But yeah,
and the car in the snow. Yeah, there is a lot, and there are. For example, if you're looking for funny scenes, definitely Takeshi included some very funny scenes there. You can tell his comedic timing as well as a comedian in the movie. Yeah, I think A History of Violence in the end does it better than I mean, Hana-bi is still very good.
Round 6.
So this one, Sebas, is usually about the rewatchability. So what movie do we feel like, we want to watch again? We can, we're going to spin this question a little, and I want to ask you about, what's the conclusion, the moral aftermath of each movie? Because both movies conclude in a very chilling, quiet, wordless final scenes. Like that was pretty impressive. Like they actually ended up very similar, although one of them is way darker. Hana-bi does imply, a very sad ending. I mean, sad if you see it from that perspective. I don't want to spoil the movie because I really want people to watch it. But it's a really dark ending, while the other one is a more of an emotional, as you were saying, as in A History of Violence, like some sort of an accepting or coming to terms to the reality in that dinner scene. So which one, from that perspective, on how they conclude the story that they were telling, which movie do you feel has the more rewatchability power?
Maybe History of Violence. I'm not sure. If it's pure rewatchability, I will split it. But if it's about that ending, which ending are you more satisfied? Probably A History of Violence will give it a little bit of an edge.
I kind of disagree. I think Hana-bi actually did something that I was not expecting, because as they were, I don't want to tell too much about it, but there's a moment where we don't see them anymore. We don't see Nishi and his wife, the one that is dying from cancer, anymore. Like the camera pans away. We hear something that makes us think about an ending that we were not expecting, and then we see the face of this girl that was playing with a kite on the beach.
I was so surprised. I didn't remember that.
I wasn't I mean, I was expecting the movie to cut when the camera was just panning to the ocean, away from the main characters, but that was it. Not everything that followed that off screen. So I don't know. History of Violence is a really strong emotional ending, but is one that I was expecting the moment that he came back home. It was all very silent, but I wasn't expecting any confrontation or any more dialogues. I was expecting something more subdued, and it came. I wasn't expecting at all what I saw, and I want to watch again Hana-bi, Sebas.
Yeah, I like the touch that it was the little girl, the one that put the plates in, and then the son is the one that gave him the roast beef. I think, right, like the put, and then the Maria Bello's character looks up and the movie ends. Let's give it to Hana-bi. I mean, I was going to split it, to be honest. I was going to give it half and half. Both of them are pretty strong, and if you have never watched it, very surprising, because you really don't know what to expect. But I think Hana-bi is all that poetic, is wonderful, and the painting that he's showing as well.
But indeed, I mean, Sebas, the ending is. I was saying that it's a very dark, but at the same time, in a way, is the most satisfying ending possible, knowing what was going on, with his wife. So I think it's a way more. I don't know if the word satisfying is the right one, but the more, rational ending that could have happened.
Yeah, even one of the detectives comments about it, and then it happens. So it was very effective that way. Yeah, he seeded the ending. So definitely we have a winner.
And the winner is
Hana-bi, Fireworks, Flores de Fuego, 4-4, basically. So yeah, it was a good match. So in the other podcast, we normally ask, do you like it? Will you recommend it? Will you rewatch it? So in this case, 100%. I think
it's a big yes for both movies. I love them both. I'm gonna watch them both, and I'm gonna recommend them both. I may recommend first Hana-bi. I think there is something very peculiar about that movie. It's the Japanese style, and I need to watch more about this guy, this director, about Takeshi Kitano. I knew the name, but I hadn't seen a movie from him before, and I feel bad about that. Seeing this, poof, I need to watch more.
Yeah, and almost all of his movies are gangsters or samurais.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Every single one of them are bloody. That's a thing about him, especially as a director. If you look for him as an actor, you will find a lot of comedy. So that's another thing.
That's really weird
thing about him.
He
was a comedian and a presenter before. But yeah, okay. And he's a celebrity, worldwide celebrity. So now you know. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy these movies. These are great movies. They are worth watching. I agree completely with Pablo. You have to watch it, rewatch it, and share it because they are amazing examples of, something mundane can become a violent, poetic language. I really enjoy these movies. And I'm really happy that Pablo enjoyed them as well.
I did, Sebas. No, I did, Sebas. I really enjoy them, and I just want to invite everyone to watch the movies, as Sebas is saying, and also, share with us your comments and your thoughts on these movies. We want to hear what you guys think about them because they're amazing. And if you like movies like this, Sebastian and I will be more than happy to continue doing this versus episodes with, this kind of.
Yeah. Until next time, keep jamming about movies.
Until next time, thanks everyone.